Are going live right now to YouTube, and we're going to wait one more minute, and then we're going to get started. And wow, great attendance. This is very exciting, very exciting. So, okay, so Gabriella, I'm just going to get you to actually, I'm not sure how this is going to work here. Let me minimize this. And you have control of the screen, so we're seeing it. Okay, so I guess I'm good to introduce you, and we're going to get started. Welcome to 2021 and the first edition of the Here to There show. No, sorry, wrong one. Wow, to Widen Your Gaze Fridays. It's been a very busy day already and very busy week for me on this. So thank you all for joining. And as a lot of you know, the Widen Your Gaze is really about the bigger picture. It's about trying to see the 50,000 foot view. And I'm really excited about having Gabriella Wolson. Wow, I tried it. I tried it with us here today. And our topic is getting unstuck. Wow, I'm just nervous here. Stop the sickness of life from holding you back. And without further ado, I'm going to let Gabriella take it because I'm just worried about saying something worse. So, Gabriella, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited about this turnout. So hopefully this will be a really great session and really we'll meet whatever you're looking for, whatever your goals are for this next hour and a half. So we're going to be talking about getting unstuck. So I will introduce myself in more detail in a few slides, but I am a career and life coach, and I offer a whole host of services in my business. But if I had to bottom line, if I had to connect it all, this is what I do. This is the work that I do with my clients is getting them unstuck. I'm sure we all can relate to the experience of feeling stuck, and we're going to talk about that a lot in a little bit. But you know, it's the new year. It's time to get moving. We've all heard about, you know, New Year's resolutions, and hopefully this will be a really great way to start the year. So I'm going to present this kind of lecture style. With that said, I would love for this to be interactive. So feel free to interrupt me with questions, with comments even. I definitely have a few questions I am gonna ask out to the group. I would love to hear your voices or to put in the chat. I'm not the best technologically wise, so I hope I can see anything you put in the chat.
And I'll be modifying the chat and making sure.
Amazing, thank you.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's get started. Oh, wait, hold on. There we go. So high level, this is what we are talking about today. And it's going to be gibberish to you because I don't want to give away all my secrets at the beginning, but here's the agenda. We're going to talk about that feeling of being stuck. I don't need to teach it to you. You know it, but I'm going to pretend to do it anyway. And we're going to talk about what is that cycle and how do we get feeling stuck? And then what I believe is the secret ingredient to get out of that cycle, to move forward, which is 3 parts: vision, belief, and commitment. We're going to look at those 3 words in a lot of detail. So before we get started, you know, I feel like I should establish a little bit of credibility of who the heck I am. I am Gabriella Mervis Wolson. I am in the process of changing my last name to Wolson. So for the next year, I'm going to carry the Mervis with me because I still feel a little attached, but one day it'll go away. And my life purpose is expression. My vision for the world is that everybody is able to fully be expressed and own exactly who they are and be that out in the world, every aspect of them and their interests and their passions and their identity, free from judgment and free from danger. And everything that I do in my life, whether it's professionally or volunteer work or just how I show up in relationship, comes back to that. So I am the founder and coach of Realignment Coaching. As I said at the top of the call, I'm a career and life coach. So I have clients that come to me with a whole array of issues or goals or dreams that they want. I do specialize in career, as I shared. So I do support in terms of all of those basic career tools, your resume, your interview, your LinkedIn, things like that. But I have clients of the whole gamut, every area of life. And before I was a coach, my background was in human resources, hence the kind of comfort level with the career search part. And I am a SHRM HR certified professional. I studied coaching at Accomplishment Coaching, and they kind of tout themselves as the world's finest coaching program. So I'm going to agree because I was a product. So it was a year-long intensive program that I just completed and graduated from this past July. And I'm now an affiliate coach with Accomplishment Coaching. Other accolades, I'm also a member of the International Honor Society of Psychology. I was inducted in 2010. I live normally in New York City with my husband, Michael, who's here in the picture as well as on the call. My best friend and my everything. Although I am calling from the Berkshires, which is kind of Western Massachusetts in the country, in the mountains. I have a lovely country home out here, so we've escaped the city. And this lovely lady in the bottom right corner, this is Tyla Fowler. This is my coach. So in our conversation on Monday, we talked about how important it is for coaches to have coaches. So I wanted to really show that I walk the talk. But more than that, every single thing that I value most in my life was a direct result of the work that I have done with my former coaches. And it is really a powerful, powerful support structure that I truly believe in for myself and for anybody that I care about. So now let's actually jump in. We've got a quote here. So many of us choose our path based on fear, disguised as practicality. The brilliant Jim Carrey.
A Canadian.
I did not know that, so thank you. I want to hear from you all. What does this quote mean? What's he talking about? How does it show up in your life?
So while we were asking the question, we should probably get you to stop sharing so we can have the picture on that. So
sure.
Yeah, it gives better for the video later on that. Just a little tip there.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, when I look at that quote, I believe that what it's addressing is by not making a decision or by not taking action. By not taking action is a conscious decision to not act or do, and because of fear. So you end up staying stuck where you are.
Love that. Great. Anyone else want to share?
I will.
Okay.
Well, it's so much. How are we making our decisions? Why are we making our decisions? Are we making decisions? Are we avoiding something, or are we moving towards something? And so often we avoid. We don't want something to happen, so we're choosing. That's how we make our choices, as opposed to what do we want to happen on that. So those are my thoughts on Jim Carrey.
Beautiful. Awesome. All right. I'm going to start screen sharing again, but if anything else comes up, please shout. Can you see the quote again?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we're stuck. Who here has ever had a goal that felt so daunting that they don't even know where to begin, so they just don't begin? Got it. And who here has ever had a dream that feels so unattainable that you don't even truly admit to yourself or to others what you really want? Who here has felt so lost in even identifying what they want? Or has worked yourself to the bone to reach a certain goal, only to find out that that destination didn't actually bring you happiness. At some point in our lives, we have all felt like we just can't make progress. We know that there's something that we can do to change our current situation. It's just there, beyond the stickiness and the stuckness. But for whatever reason, we feel trapped in the sludge. So many of us spend a large part of our lives in one way or another feeling stuck. That is, in a state where we have a strong desire to move forward on an issue, meet with an equally strong compulsion to stay fixed where we are. For example, we might at one level powerfully want to leave a job in finance in order to train in architecture. But at the same time, we remain blocked by a range of doubts or hesitations, counter arguments, guilty feelings, or we might be compelled to leave a marriage while simultaneously being unable to really imagine any realistic life outside of it. So to act feels horrific, but doing nothing is killing us as well. Every avenue appears shut off. And so one ruminates, turns over the question late at night, and watches life go by with mounting anxiety and self-disgust. You see yourself in that at all? So what happens when we feel stuck? We get stuck in the meh, indecision, irritability, numbness, doubt, procrastination, frustration, helplessness, and lethargy. Joy, all of our favorite things. And I'm sure that since I've been talking, you have been coming up with examples of different areas in your life that you either currently or in the past have felt stuck and thought of all of the results. But if we took even a microcosm, for instance, my background in human resources, right? What is the effect on just the workplace alone when employees feel stuck? We've got lower engagement, more errors, employees not going for a new role, resentment, and suppressed voice. And that's a microcosm. Think of all of the areas of life when we feel stuck. Does anyone want to shout out any kind of other result that they can think of from feeling stuck? Or putting it in the chat? Either one.
For me, it's disempowered.
Lack of enthusiasm for everything in life. It just doesn't apply to where I'm stuck. It transcends into various avenues of my life.
Yeah. Great. And Stephanie said in the chat, said lack of drive and motivation. Great. Awesome.
Can I just ask one clarifying question?
Yeah.
Gabriella? Can you talk a bit more about a suppressed voice? I think I know what that means, but I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure if everyone would know that. So. Yeah.
So, oftentimes, especially in the workplace, but for sure in other areas of life, we suppress our voice. And what I mean by that is we have an idea, we have a desire, and we don't share it. So actually earlier when I was saying that my life purpose, my number one value in life is expression, suppression of voice is the opposite. So it's not asking for what you need. It's not sharing the idea you have. And when I had listed specifically the example of in the workplace, when we have suppressed voice, then maybe we're in a meeting and, you know, a team is making a plan of how to move forward. And in our gut, we're like, that is not good. I see the roadblocks. I see the red flags. But if we are in that stuck feeling for whatever reason, we might not share. We might not speak up. Or the opposite. We have an idea we think would be brilliant for the company to take on, but we don't even share it. That's a suppressed voice.
So it's playing small.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
playing small.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to get good at going back and forth between sharing and unsharing. All right, here we go. So that's the effects. That's the situation of stuckness. And what is the actual cycle? So the way that I see stuckness is it's a cycle. We've got our thinking, which affects our behaviors, which creates our results. So when we're stuck, what's happening is that we're having the same old thinking that we normally have, which creates our same old behaviors, which we normally have, which create the same results. So high level, if we want to get out of the cycle, we've got to literally break it up. But research shows it's not enough to just shift our thinking, and it's not enough to just shift our behaviors. We have to do it together. So if we want to create new results, we've got to shift our beliefs while shifting our behaviors. I also want to talk about fear, because whenever we feel held back, it is always going to come down to that topic of fear, right? And us as human beings, when we feel fearful, that's our message that we're in danger, right? That's our animal brain. That's our gorilla brain. And as animals, when we feel fearful, that's fight or flight, right? But I would argue, at least in the context of this conversation, when we feel fearful, that's actually our green light. That's the moment that we know, ooh, I should step into this because I am actually on the edge of greatness. And if I don't step into this fear, then I'm just perpetuating that cycle and I'm in the same behaviors and the same thinking. So when we feel that fear, that's actually a signal to go, not a signal to stop. So that desire to stop, that comes from our comfort zone. And I'm sure all of us have heard about the comfort zone and we're familiar with it. But what is in our comfort zone is everything that's known, everything familiar, things we've already experienced, things that we're confident about, things that are literally comfortable for us. And so we as human beings, we try to stay in our comfort zone. And sometimes that's great. But if we're looking to shift a cycle, if we're looking to take on something new, if we're looking to level up an area of our lives, possibility actually lives outside of our comfort zone. And so if we want to do something new, we've got to step out. We've got to try something new. We've got to learn something new. We've got to meet somebody new, because staying in our comfort zone keeps us in that cycle. And the question that we always want to ask ourselves when we have a desire is, where can I create the possibility? So now we've identified the possibilities outside of our comfort zone. Let's say, okay, I agree. I'm willing to step out. But how do I find that? Where is the possibility? So take, for instance, our favorite topic, COVID-19. We have, for the last, how many months? 9, 10? We've been inside, right? And the conversation that we have heard over and over again are the limitations, what's been taken away from us, right? And I'm not going to argue that that isn't the case. But in order to get out of a feeling of stuckness, the question is, where can I actually create possibility? Where is there opportunity? So for me, when I am home and I'm mad because I'm like, I want to go out and see my friends, the solution isn't, well, let me just ignore the circumstances and go out to the club and start partying it up. But the solution is, what can I newly create? So we're all clearly aware of Zoom calls. Maybe we've gotten really creative about sitting in a car in a driveway and our friends are sitting in another car and we're talking with our windows down and our masks up. Or maybe staying at home has actually created something beautiful for us. You know, for me, I always thought I was this New York City gal that needed to jump from activity to activity and get zero sleep. And if I have learned anything this year, it's I want to be in the country where it's slower. I actually know what it feels like to get rest. I know what it feels like to have priorities. I know what it feels like to say no to things. And it's actually been a gift. And from there, the possibility I've created is actually building my business in a way that feels authentic and is actually in motion compared to desperation and exhaustion. So when given a situation where we feel stuck, the answer isn't to just jump to the opposite. The answer is, where can I create possibility? And now that we're starting to play around with possibility, what is the secret sauce? And this is what I believe, I've come up with this, is it's 3 primary tiers with a bunch of stuff within it. We've got vision, belief, and commitment. And I believe if you have vision, belief, and commitment, you can get yourself unstuck and you can reach that goal, whatever it is. So let's deep dive into this. So vision. One big part of vision is the power of future thinking. So human beings by nature, they dwell in the past and the present. It's comfortable and safe to come from. The inherent problem is there can never be a powerful shift from this place. This is because we're stuck in an undistinguished place from which there's no real power or escape. When we stay in the story of the reality of our past or present circumstances, then we do not have to deal with power or possibility from the future. So, how do you think from the future? First, you need to distinguish all the concepts of what is or isn't possible, that those are completely invented. Time, past, present, and future don't exist without our say-so. The challenge is to see that what we say creates our reality. Typically, humans use language to describe rather than to declare. And we're going to talk about declaration in a few minutes. We describe the world as it seems from our limited context versus describing a world into existence based in possibility. Shifting this involves a powerful change in the context with which we view the world. Ultimately, we realize that we can use our speaking to create our present and future and recreate our disempowering context around the past. Please note that this takes a lot of time and practice, but is doable. Fear and our survival mechanism will attack the possibility of this new way of speaking and listening in our lives. Reality will seem hard as a brick. Do not buy it. Keep standing in a future that you have created. So, from this place of powerful thinking, now we need to think about what is our vision. And this is an exercise that I really recommend everybody do, that is really closing your eyes and envisioning what would it be like to be standing in the future. And you get to determine what this is, right? So it could either be, I'm in my last year or two of life and I'm looking back on my life and I'm looking back at everything I created and who I was and the relationships I built. Or it could be a vision for a very specific goal. Like, what's my vision for my new job? What's my vision for the family I'm building? But really getting very clear on the vision. Asking yourself, standing in the future, what is life like today on the other side of that goal, on the other side of your project? What's present for you? What's present for others? What results have you produced? How does it feel to be there and know you accomplished it? Who are you being? What have you accomplished? What have you learned? And what's even next? So I highly, highly recommend when you are in a place of stuckness, getting really clear on what even is that vision.
We do have a question.
Yeah, please.
And so it's what comes first? Do we have to shift our behaviors, and after a while, our beliefs will follow? So it's chicken and the egg here.
I was just going to say,
yeah.
It is a total chicken and egg. And, what works for one person doesn't work for everyone. But at the risk of not answering your question, it's kind of like you got to attack both, and whichever catches first. So in a little bit later in this, I'm going to talk about the power of action and just getting started. I'm also going to talk about identifying kind of our fears and our beliefs. Because the two have to go hand in hand, focus on both. And maybe one catches before the other, but really it's the marriage of the two that's the most important.
It kind of reminds me of the 12-step programs that say fake it till you make it.
100%. Yeah. In coaching, we talk a lot about being. So I'm an ontological coach, and that's all about like, how are we being? What's our energy? How are we showing up? And I don't talk about that too much in the presentation, but, my coach this week, she asked me, what are my goals? We went through all of my goals for the year, and I have 1 million of what I'm going to do. And then she said to me, okay, you've told me what you're doing. What are your goals for who you're being? And I said that for the year of 2021, my 2 words are badassery and play.
Is that a word? Badassery?
Badassery.
It's a word now.
So that's who I want to be this year, right? And the only way to be badassery and play is to be badassery and play, right? It's that fake it till you make it. So in any given situation, big or small, I just drop in and I think, okay, what would badassery do in this situation? What would play do in this situation? And then I be that. So again, that's a huge part of my coaching, although it's not where I focus so much in this presentation. But I think, from thinking about that fake it till you make it, who are we being? That's a practice both in shifting our thoughts and in shifting our behaviors.
Jerome asks, have you heard of nonviolent communications?
I have heard of it, but not enough that I would feel comfortable discussing it. Do you want to share something, Jerome?
Jerome, you mean? Oh, we got a bad connection. Did we
just back
lose?
To you.
Okay. I'm not sure if we just lost Jerome. Did we lose him?
We scared him off.
Okay, well,
can you hear me
hopefully.
Sorry, Luke, can you hear me?
Yes, is this Ken? Oh,
yeah.
Wait. Go ahead, Jerome. You're muted. And
you hear me?
Yeah, it's just your signal's really bad. You're really kind of cutting in. I'm not sure we're gonna be able to hear your question. Go ahead, try, Jerome, and we'll see.
Where?
No, you muted yourself again, Jerome.
You hear me now?
We'll see, yes.
What it does basically is that you look inside your wants and feelings, your needs.
Okay.
And once you deal with that, then you honestly can deal with your children and other people. What it is that it neutralizes the ego of the other person, where there's no harm and nothing will come to you. Marshall Rosenberg, who was a guy who produced this, dealt with schizophrenics, all those other nuts in the state hospitals, and he actually got through to them. And now they're using his methods. So I know this stuff works. So it's in his book. It's in his book. You can read about it. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that all we know is punishment, crime. You did this, and that's the end of it. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do to reform them? If you don't get into what even their parents never even talk to them about. Once you get and find out what their wants and needs are. That goes for even your audience, the same thing. If you don't find out what it is, you can't communicate. Words don't mean nothing. Words, all it does is cripple you. Words takes your power away. I own you. If you hold on to a thought, I own you. No, it owns you. It owns you. It's like you're like a prisoner.
Yeah.
But it's like the ocean. The water goes in and out. As long as you don't grab it, it doesn't bother you. But once you grab it, that's yours. That's a simple version. That's just a simple version.
Yeah,
There's more
thank
to it.
you.
Yeah, it's called NBC. Good on
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Why don't you put the title in the chat there, Jerome, and then
It's NBC. That's all it is. NBC.
NVC, Nonviolent Communication. Okay, thanks,
It's
Jerome.
non-cat.
Awesome.
Non-cat Victor.
Cool.
Want me to put it in the chat?
Sure.
Awesome.
I have it in the chat already. You already read it.
Okay.
Cool. So, thank you, Jerome. That was awesome. And yeah, so as we were talking about is getting really present to what your vision is and what it specifically feels like to be on the other side. Okay. And then the power of declaration. Okay. So declaration is where possibility starts. It causes the future and actions that will move us toward that future and to fulfilling on our possibility. We're able to say just about anything as human beings, right? So why do we have to specifically declare something? A declaration is a powerful state of intention. It's saying, I will do X by Y date. Boom, that's my declaration. It's public and usually has a time commitment attached to it. And the action of actually declaring is necessary the action of speaking the declaration is just as necessary as the declaration itself, because otherwise it just disappears in our head, right? So it's the action of out loud saying, this is what I'm going to do, X by Y. And what's the difference between just a positive affirmation, which I'm sure we've all heard about, and a declaration? So a declaration is a statement with our fears distinguished, right? We know that our fears are there. Simply put, from being in this present moment, maybe we have just written out our vision. From being in this present moment, I declare X. An affirmation, on the other hand, that's over the top of our fears. So a declaration is in the face of our fears. An affirmation is over the top of our fears and our survival mechanism. That's something like, I am strong and wise in my dealings with money. And you repeat it over and over again. It's an affirmation of who I essentially think I'm not, but I hope to be. So there's not much power or access to power. In fact, the way an affirmation is said actually affirms the present undistinguished context of I'm not this. So I'm just reaffirming that I'm not this by just saying the opposite. So a declaration is saying, yes, I have these fears, but in the face of these fears, I am going to complete X by Y. It's a really powerful tool. Another powerful tool is manifestation. So the power of manifestation is being able to harness your true desires and destiny in life, subconsciously put into vision and then into reality. So everything you want of the universe, the idea of manifestation is that everything that you want in the universe is already yours. And the clearer your thoughts and thinking are on the matter, the more timely and precisely the delivery of what you desire will come. And there's lots of ways to do manifestation. One is the exercise I just said, writing out your vision. But then from there, what do? Maybe you make a vision board. So this picture here, this is actually my vision board. This I created about 6 months ago, and it sits directly across from my desk. I'm not in my office right now, otherwise I'd be staring at it, and I look at it all day. And it has everything about what I want to accomplish and what I want to do, to who I want to be as a person. Other tools of manifestation are mantras, prayer, and other types of like visualization. So whether it's not a vision board, but it's, I have for play and adventure, I have like a little figurine, a little green guy that looks like he's dancing. That reminds me about play and adventure. Or the idea of visualization in your head, right? Through meditation is like really thinking through that vision and really getting present to what it feels like to be on the opposite side of that goal or that project.
Yeah, well, can I just ask you a question about your vision board? I see you have pink stick-it notes on there. Is that what you? I've never, I can't read them, which is fine. I'm not looking to read them, but what do those serve? Is that just something that you change as you go along, or is it addition?
Yeah, great question. So in a little bit, I'm going to talk about creating a plan for any of your goals. And so when I work with my clients, they typically have what I call projects, but they're essentially goals, and they're high-level bucket projects. And so for me, I have 4 primary projects, and those are what's listed here. And within my projects, I'm also going to talk about this later, is I have milestones. So kind of the declarations is, within the high-level declaration, it's what am I going to complete to work towards personal expression, to work towards community impact. And what I did is on the Post-it notes are always my next milestone that I'm working on.
Okay. So that's how you use them as a milestone on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Great question.
Because I never seen anyone do that on a vision board. So that's kind of cool, right? Because it's on that. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for asking. So basically what I was just referring to is now's the exciting part. This is why you're all here, right? Now I've gotten clear on what I actually want. I'm still in the face of all my fears. What do I do? So to make a plan, I'm sure we've all sat down and maybe our plan has been a checklist or a to-do list. But here are the elements that I believe need to all be present in order to have a strong plan to meet your vision. So the first is the intended results, and that's that declaration we were talking about. So having it really clear, I will complete X, and have it be measurable and clear when you reach it by Y. Have a date where you were saying you were going to reach it. The vision is clear. So that's that journaling and getting really present to what it feels like to being on the other side. The skills. So that's asking yourself, what are the skills that I already possess in myself that will help me and enable me towards meeting this goal? And then thinking through what are the resources. And I split that up into 2. Like, what are the people resources? Like, who in my life can support me in some sort of way that will support me to reaching my goal? And what are my other resources, my non-people resources? And that could be as simple as, a Zoom or my calendar or my calculator. And then the crucial part is the milestones. I'm sorry if you guys hear that. There's a truck outside. I apologize.
It's all good. I just didn't know if it was my noise.
Yeah. I apologize.
It's not that bad.
The neighbors are doing construction.
Don't they know we're trying to do a show here?
Yeah,
come on.
So rude. They were playing classic rock all day and loudly, and part of me wanted to complain, but I also really liked it. The most important part here are the milestones, right? And that's what I was talking about when Luke asked about my Post-it notes. So we have the high level, here's what I want to complete. Here's what I want to do. So for instance, maybe someone has a goal around, I want to lose 20 pounds. Then you want to create milestones. And because we're doing this plan from the future, right, really dropping into our vision, our declaration, you want to make these milestones in reverse. So if I want to lose 20 pounds in 6 months, then maybe I'm going to say I'll have lost 15 pounds in 4 months. And maybe I'll have lost 10 pounds in 3 months. So then before that, I know that I need to have lost 5 pounds. So I'm making these reverse milestones. And so then when I'm working towards my goal, yes, I'm super connected to my overall vision, but I'm not getting overwhelmed by, holy crap, how am I going to make it to 12? I know right now I'm just trying to make it to 5. And it also holds me accountable to my overall progress because I know I need to make it to 5 by a certain date. And then we've got the action plan. Right? This is a little more aligned with how we naturally do. We sit down and we make our to-do list. The action plan is what you'll actually do, right? So the milestones are like, checkbox, what have I accomplished? The action plan is, okay, to get to the next milestone, if I'm working towards 5 pounds lost in the next 2 months, what's my action plan? Okay, well, maybe I'm going to cut out carbs and I'm going to exercise 4 times a week. Whatever my plan is, you have an action. And then the step that most people love to leave out is the rewards. It is crucial that you are rewarding and celebrating yourself. So for each milestone that you list, every time you hit one, you must reward yourself. You need to be celebrated. You need to be incentivized. You need to really realize, holy crap, this is what I did, and I can keep going. Rewards also kind of work in reverse, right? Like they are the motivation sometimes to get to the milestone. You know, one time I had a reward like I get to go on an international trip with my husband. Well, you and I both know that international trip was booked months before I even, wrote that down. But I needed to go on that trip, which means if that's my reward, then I better meet that milestone or I've got a problem. So oftentimes, as I was saying, these are all of the elements that need to come in a plan. And oftentimes we have some, but not all. So if you drop in and think about who you are typically when you have a goal, raise your hand if you're someone that typically experiences confusion towards your goal. If you're experiencing confusion, what's missing for you is the vision. So you need to, know that that's really important if you're someone that has confusion to make sure that you don't skip that step. Raise your hand if you're someone that typically experiences anxiety around your goals. What's missing if you're experiencing anxiety is the skills. So maybe you're not acknowledging your own skill that you have, or maybe you need to go back and look at the goal because you're having anxiety because you actually don't have the proper skills. Maybe you need to gather the skills and then relook at this project, or maybe you need to shift the project, or maybe it's as simple as you're not acknowledging your own skill. Raise your hand if you're someone that typically experiences gradual change. Like you eventually get there, but it takes a long time. Gradual change is typically for people who are missing the rewards. They don't have those incentives to get to the next milestone, And if you're someone that experiences frustration around your goals, that's typically someone that doesn't have the resources that they need. So that might be you go out and you get the resources you need, or you shift the goal, or you have to have an opportunity to acknowledge more of the resources. And if you're someone, lastly, that identifies with having false starts, right? Like you have this idea and you get going really fast and then it kind of dies out. Those are typically people that don't have the action plan, right? They have the vision and they have everything set up and they're ready to go, but they don't exactly even know how to get there. They didn't slow down to make the plan. So that was everything around vision. That was my first part of the equation that I believe to get you unstuck. The next part that we're going to talk about is belief. And what I mean in that is belief in yourself. I argue that if you don't believe that you can get yourself unstuck, then you will never get yourself unstuck. Now, I'm human too. That's a lot easier said than done. We as humans are so hard on ourselves, but you really need to drop into your self-belief in order to get unstuck. So, what are the elements of belief? The first, I would argue, is celebrating yourself. So, when we celebrate ourselves, we are reminded to enjoy the journey. We are reminded that we are just learning and we're just human. And we realize, oh, that's cool. I am hitting some milestones. When we celebrate ourselves, we also remind ourselves to be grateful. Grateful for what we've done and who we are and what we've done for ourselves, but also our circumstances and the people that have supported us. And when we celebrate ourselves, we most importantly increase our confidence. That is the number one thing in terms of belief, increasing our confidence. So how do we do that? There are little things that you can take on all the time, right? Looking at your daily accomplishments. My husband and I have a practice. Every night we talk about what we accomplished and what we learned that day. Okay, so looking at daily accomplishments, focusing on your achievements. I guarantee that you achieve a lot more in one day than you give yourself credit for. When you stop and you say, what can I celebrate myself for today? There's a lot. Being grateful for everything you have in your life, setting up physical rewards for the things you've done well. We just talked about that. Looking at your inner strengths, so appreciating yourself and seeing your skills and your strengths. Identifying ways that you are accomplishing your purpose. When I talked about earlier, my life purpose is expression, then I'm celebrating myself when I know that I'm in line with my values and my life purpose. Finding joy in the best moments of the day. Even on our crappiest days, there's always a moment that feels good. So dropping into that moment and looking at what goals you have achieved. Super important to celebrate yourself. So looking at imposter syndrome, right? What gets in the way of belief? There's many things, but to me, this is one of the overarching things, and I'm sure a lot of us have heard of imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud, okay? So there's a lot of ways and a lot of research out there, and I recommend you look into it, of how to combat imposter syndrome, particularly in women where it's more prevalent. But here's just one little tool. I'm giving away one of my secrets here. This is a tool that I do with my clients. It's called the clearing exercise. So how the clearing exercise works is I do it every day at the beginning of the day. And I sit down and I write out what are all of my fears, concerns, and complaints right now. I just get it out, get that energy out of you. And then I go through and I create what I call I am statements. So for each item that I listed in the first step, what is the most nasty and critical judgment that I can say about myself? So like, I am a lazy, good for nothing schlub, okay? And I'm writing an I am statement for each thing. Then I'm going to go through everything I answered in number 2 and ask myself, is this interpretation or fact? Luke talked about that on Monday, right? Asking, is this true? And I'm going to label. And listen, our brains are going to sometimes say, well, it kind of is because this one time I did this, or recently I thought that. The question is, can you actually measure it? Can you hold in your hand the measure of being a lazy schlub? Am I that lazy schlub that I'm holding in my hand always and consistently? The answer is no. So once you've gotten to a place where you're realizing, oh my gosh, all of these things I'm saying to myself is just interpretation, now I've cleared that disempowering interpretation. And now I have the space to create something else that's not a reaction of who I am and or of not, but a new way of being. I talked about being earlier, or declaration. So then I come up with a stand. And my stand for the day could be anything from gratitude or energy or joy. And each day I come up with a stand. And then when I'm entering a meeting, I drop in, okay, what's my stand for the day? Okay, and from gratitude, how do I want to show up? And the most important is, because we as humans will forget, post your stand everywhere. Cover that house with your Post-it notes. Put it on the fridge and your desk. What is your stand for the day? And that is going to start to shift this feeling that you're an imposter. Another important thing is simply getting clear on the facts. So if you're anything like me, avoidance is the name of your game, right? Like when I'm stressed about my financial situation, I do not even want to look at my bank account. I'm just going to swipe that card and hope for the best. But what's I've learned is really important is, instead of having all of this ambiguity and energy and avoidance, let me just get clear on what is, or what's so. So getting clear on the facts, it might hurt for half a second to actually look at the thing, but now I actually know what I need to accomplish. So many times we stay in the ambiguity because you don't want to look at the thing, and we can't make any progress if we don't know where we are. And when we look at where we are, sometimes the awesome opportunity is where we realize, oh, I'm in a much better position than I even thought, and I just spent 6 months stressing out. I could have just looked at the thing. Or I might say, I'm not doing I'm not where I want to be, but now I know, and now I can make a plan. So actually looking at the thing, clears out that energy, clears out that ambiguity, and now allows me to make that plan that I was talking about earlier. So the third primary ingredient that I talked about, we've got vision, we've got belief, and now commitment. So I am going to come off screen share again, and I want to hear from you all. What does it mean to be committed to something?
And I'm assuming we're not talking about committable, but committed.
Well, I think that's a great distinction. Thank you. What does it mean to be committed to something? You got that.
I guess at the end of the most basic definition would be you have a commitment to do. I'm sorry, not commitment. You have an impetus or an urgency to do something.
Great. I love that.
To stick with it, whether it gets worse or it gets better. Not give up.
Yeah. How would we know that you were committed to something? If I were watching you being committed, what would I see?
Nelson said follow through. Action.
Cool. So you guys totally hit the nail on the head. The definition of commitment officially is the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause or an activity. And so commitment, right? So we have the vision, we have the desire, and now we actually believe in ourselves. But is this really founded in a commitment, right? Because if we're not actually committed to it, we're not going to take any action, or we're not going to do the deep emotional work to shift our beliefs or anything like that. So is it really founded in commitment? And oftentimes, as you just said, the way that we can tell that we're in commitment is we're in action. So to me, when I think of commitment, the first thing I think of is inertia. Okay. So when an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force, but also an object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. So if you are not seeing you budging at all, and you're feeling super stuck, you're in inertia. And you yourself need to be that outside motion to try something new, is to be in action. And similarly, once we start creating action, action begets action. Sometimes just starting is the hardest part. So oftentimes, something I will do with my clients is like, what is the smallest little baby step that you could take towards your goal? It could be the easiest thing. It could take you 14 seconds and not hit on any nerves. What is the baby step that you could take? And that is one of the best things you could do for yourself, because once you're in action, you're creating more action. I have a quote here, babe, your speed doesn't matter. Forward is forward. So making sure that you're in action. Similarly to asking my clients, what's the next baby step? Another big question I ask is, what's the boldest step you could take? That's advanced class, right? But, what if I could only do one thing, but it was freaking bold? What's the boldest next step for me to take? Another part of commitment that I think is really important is groundedness. Okay. So groundedness is kind of encapsulates a lot of the things that we're talking about. It's that connection to vision, connection to your purpose and your values, deep in your commitment. And oftentimes when I get, I'm super anxious or frazzled, or I'm just like not feeling as connected to my vision, or my fears are coming in and I'm being totally taken out and I'm starting to feel stuck. A practice of groundedness often gets me right back on track. Something as simple as breathing. So what I do is I sit and I put my feet on the floor and I feel my connection to the floor. And I feel my seat bones in the chair and I feel the earth pushing up on me. And I close my eyes and I just do some deep breaths. And it is so corny. I was a deep breath groundedness hater for the majority of my life. But every single time that I do it, all of a sudden it's clear to me what my next step is. I cleared the energy of anxiety. I'm reconnected to my vision and I'm ready to be in action again. So groundedness is a huge part of staying in commitment and staying in action. And connected to that is well-being. Okay. So think of the classic, you're on an airplane, right? You have to put on your oxygen mask first, right? Before whoever you're with. You have to take care of yourself before you can go out into the world to tackle that goal. So there are so many aspects of well-being. It's not just making sure that you're getting good sleep and eating well, although that's important, but really making sure that you're taking care of your physical well-being, your emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being, mental well-being, your overall lifestyle is being taken care of. Because in this image, those are the things that start to fill your cup. And when your cup is filled, you're able to act. You're able to create something new. But if you're running on empty, that car is not going anywhere. Taking care of your well-being is arguably one of the most important things to get unstuck. And one of the first things that goes out the window when we feel stuck. The next part of commitment is looking at what support structures you have. Okay, so I've got a picture of Oprah here, right? Oprah is one of the people that I think is freaking insane. And what I mean by that is like, how the hell does she do all the things that she does, right? And the craziest fact about it is she has the exact same 24 hours in a day that you and I have. And what's the difference? How is she able to do so much? The answer is support. She has support. And again, we as human beings, it is so hard for us to ask for support. We sometimes think it shows weakness or we don't want to bother other people. But you will not, and I mean this, will not reach your goal without support. And support can mean a lot of different things, right? It can mean working with a therapist. It can mean working with a coach. It can mean working with a consultant to get some advice. It could be setting up accountability structures, right? So saying to a friend, hey, can you check in that I completed this thing on Tuesday? Or I'm going to email this to you on Monday. And if I don't, then blah, 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 blah. Your schedule is a really underrated support tool, right? If you say to yourself, I'm going to send that email by Wednesday, but you know deep down inside, you're going to avoid that email that you really don't want to send, and it's going to be Friday, and you're going to be like, meh, I still haven't done it. What about sitting down and proactively putting in your schedule, Wednesday at 1 o'clock, I'm going to write that email. So really setting up that schedule for yourself. Power hours is specific, but I love it. This is calls with either a colleague or a peer or even just a friend to say, hey, we're going to sit on the phone with each other, but we're not going to hang out. We're going to do power hours where I'm going to work for the next hour on my business. I'm going to work up for the next hour on my budget. And then we're going to check in at the end and share what we did. So setting up the structures for you to do it. Delegation, right? Like, just like Oprah, are there other people that can help you? You don't have to do it all on your own. Similar to that, prioritization. Do you have to do everything this week or this month or even this year? What do you want to prioritize now? You know, what is actually connected to your vision? That's a great question, is like, is this even aligned with my vision? If not, it can definitely wait. Rewards, I keep hitting this over your head, but so important because rewards are the incentives for you to move forward. And even continuing education, right? That could be getting training. That could be reading a book to learn more, to gain your confidence, to gain your skills. Support. Without support, you will not get unstuck. I feel so strongly about support structures. So to wrap up, why the hell, I've been talking for a little over an hour now. Why the hell does this conversation matter, right? Like, you could continue with your life and not touch anything and continue to feel stuck. And guess what? You would be fine. I'm not going to lie to you. You might not be as happy as you want to be, but you would be totally fine. And your life would probably be success. And you'd probably even create some really cool things in your life. But deep down inside, you have a goal, you have a desire, you have a vision for what you want to create, what goals you want to reach, what you want to do with your life, the relationships that you want to build, who you want to be in this world, and you are worth it. Drake said it, YOLO, you only live once. Just like I assume most people on this call, I have an unbelievable fear of death, unbelievable. But the more that I started to think about death and accept death, I realized life is kind of meaningless. And I don't say that in a depressing way. I say that in the we get to play. We get to build whatever we want. What is the point, if we're going to die anyway, to not reach that dream? You are worth it and you matter. And you matter to get a little uncomfortable, to step outside of your comfort zone, to break the cycle, to find support structures, to visualize, to make a vision board, all of these tools that we talked about, clearing exercise, breaking down our fears. You're worth it. It will take work. It will take being uncomfortable. I promise that. But think of how it's going to feel on the other side. So this was my presentation. This is me, Gabriella. I am Realignment Coaching. And exciting announcement that everyone who attended this presentation or is watching on YouTube, you are eligible for a complimentary 1-hour coaching session with me on literally any topic that you would like. So you're able to schedule time with me directly on my website. When I come off screen share, I'm going to put in the link, my website, as well as the direct link, an even more direct link to schedule time with me. So, I said before, my life purpose is expression. I feel strongly about this topic of getting unstuck. You deserve it. And whatever I can do to support you, I would be honored to be a part of what you're creating. What questions you got? I just talked at you for so long.
All right. I have questions, and I will I will ask them, but I want people to ask them first, because I could easily take over the conversation with my questions. So what questions do people have for Gabriella? Nelson did say that it was fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm so
Yeah.
glad it was helpful.
Yeah.
A question for you, Gabriella. When you do that clearing exercise, you say you do it every day.
Mm-hmm.
How long does that take you to do?
Well, now I'm like on autopilot. Like I know the next step. So I can do it in probably 5 minutes, maybe even less. I think at the beginning, it definitely took me longer, especially the interpretation or fact part, right? Like, as I said earlier, our brains want to argue and say, well, this is kind of fact when it's totally not. So I think getting to a place where I can honestly identify this is just an interpretation, this isn't me. That can take a little bit longer when you're newer to the exercise. But
Okay.
yeah, it's one of the first things I do in the morning, and I just bust it out really quickly.
Okay. Thank you. It was a great presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. You're good.
Yeah. Actually, I have it. It's not. It is a question, but it's more of a comment, I think. One of the things that came up earlier was which comes first, breaking out of the fear. Is it? And dealing with the fear thing and stepping out of comfort zone. One of the things that I have found that helps me is my definition of fear is caused by only one thing, and that is the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
If we, and like you were saying, you don't want to look at your bank account because you don't know how in debt you are. But once you have the courage to look at it, you go, oh, I'm only $100 in debt. I thought I could have been 1,000. So knowing, even if it's bad, knowing is better than not knowing. Yeah. So that for me gives me the start point. What I am in
couldn't
fear,
agree more.
Whatever it is that I am in fear of, the first thing is it. Yeah. Because if you know it, even if it's bad, you're not going to fear it as much as if you don't know what it is.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. Sorry, keep going. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, the second thing would be then talking about fake it till you make it. So if I assume that someone else has gone through whatever fear I am fearing, and I take it on myself to learn all about whatever that fear is, my comfort zone is going to expand with that knowledge. When I have learned everything I can about it, that's when I go into fake it till you make it. Because if you don't know anything and you refuse to learn anything and you go into fake it till you make it, you're going to be an ass and people are going to see it.
Yeah.
So learning what you can from others, to me, is the start point. Then once you can't find anybody to learn from, then you go into fake it till you make it, because then you have the knowledge to do a logical projection as to what should logically be the next step and why hasn't anybody else come up with that yet. And now you are the authority. And now everything that you feared is in your own comfort zone. So I love that. I don't know if that helps any, but that's how, at least it's a start point, which is go learn whatever it is that you don't know.
Yeah.
Because that's what's keeping you stuck.
Yeah. I love that. I love, I so briefly talked about this when I was talking about support, right? Like the value of learning is, and a little bit when I was talking about skills, like the value of learning is so important. And I love what you brought up. I also would say that at least for myself, when I talk about fake it till you make it, I don't mean that you, one day walk up and say, I'm a basketball coach now, when you've never played. But when we're talking about your being, and your energy and how you're showing up, right? Like when I was talking about my 2 words for 2021, whenever I drop into those words, that's more of what I mean when I'm saying like fake it till you make up. How do you want to show up? I think, a lot of my clients, when we prep for interviews, one of the first things that I'll say is, how do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Again, tapping into that vision. How do you want to show up in the interview? Great. Show up that way.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Great.
What else we got?
Well, I'm going to, I will ask my question. And you're talking about, you mentioned, Gabriella, about the importance of asking for support and seeking support out. I think both genders we've got our crosses to bear. We've got how somebody put it, we have our curses that we deal with. And, and the male curse very often is the ego and not posturing and everything and grandiosity on that. What I've heard a lot of women I really respect say is this idea that women are cursed with this idea of being the superwoman and not being able to ask for help. So if you have the mother, you can't buy sending cupcakes to school. You can't buy the pre-made cupcakes. You have to make the cupcakes. And so, do you have any thoughts on this about how this is? It might be women. What I've heard women say is that if they're not the super mom, if they're not the super wife and that kind of stuff, they are going to be, then that somehow it's an indictment on them. Would you, as a woman, would you agree with this? Let's just start with that.
Yeah, I would. I don't feel totally confident in speaking primarily to the gender differences, although definitely in terms of my own personal experience, I think that there are a lot more expectations placed on women. And, talk about a cycle, women tend to be the ones that are even harder on themselves. We talked about imposter syndrome, and, that has, research shows, been found significantly more in women than men. One thing that I would say in terms of combating that, and this doesn't necessarily address the gender question, but, and I think I talked about this on Monday, is when you're creating your vision is really identifying what standards you're holding yourself to and what you actually want to accomplish. Because we have in life so many shoulds, and we have what we think we're supposed to do or supposed to complete or supposed to achieve. And it's all crap, right? Like, it's that YOLO thing. Life is meaningless. So we get to just build whatever we want to build. So another thing that I normally have posted in my office if I was there is a big sign that says, what standard are you comparing yourself to? Because sometimes I'll come to my coach and I'll be like, I'm so frustrated because I'm not doing enough, and she'll be like, based on what? Because when we look back at the project design and the plan that you created, you're actually right on track. So by, going back to that conversation about ambiguity and even what Ken was talking about, if we have it clearly defined who we want to be and what we want to achieve, that can take away some of these external pressures. When we don't have it defined, that's where all of this doubt comes in. Am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? Should I be prioritizing this or that? When we have it defined, that releases a lot of that extra energy.
Right on. So yeah, and it's often what I will say to people is confusion's a choice. And if you find yourself in confusion, ask questions. Because it's just like, that's how you get out of confusion, that's how you empower yourself, is like, so what is it? But I don't know. You're just, in that kind of space.
Yeah.
Other questions that we have from the audience?
Chris, you got to have something.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask another one. Are you Are you a fan of law of attraction?
Yes. I don't know why I thought about that so long. I was just getting excited. Yeah, I mean, everything that I was talking about with manifestation and visualization, when I was talking about the being, right? Like, what kind of people do I want to attract, or what kind of situations do I want to attract? Okay, well, let me think about who I need to be to attract those things.
Right. Well, it's this, and I don't know if it's urban myth or whatnot, but Tony Robbins, the coach, and Tony Robbins, well, as people that go call him to his workshops, they call him as T and whatnot, is what I understand. But a motivational speaker who sells books calls up Tony Robbins one day and apparently has his phone number and says, "Hey Tony, I'm a guest speaker. You're a guest speaker. I do presentations. You do presentations. I sell books. You sell books. I make $10 million. You make $100 million. What gives?" And apparently Tony Robbins says, "Well, what do your 5 closest friends make for money?"
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and they said, "Well, yeah, they all make about $10 million. He goes, "That's the point. My 5 closest friends make 100 million." So if you want to see, if you want a snapshot of who you are, look at your 5 the people you spend time with, and that's a representation of who you are.
Oh, I love that.
And it's kind of, it's, especially if you don't like your friends, that's not good. But it's this idea of we are who we represent. And it's no different in some way. When I used to supervise people and I had this stellar staff, I would say to them, "Do you have any friends that are looking for work?" Because likelihood, your friends are going to think like you. So if I want you to bring in the people that you hang out with, because they'll likely be stellar on top of that. So a lot of what you were talking about is law of attraction, and this idea of, appreciation and gratitude and those type of things, and what so much of your message is that idea that you appreciate what you've done, you honor it, you focus on it and whatnot. And so I just kind of, you never talked about law of attraction, but I thought you really very much did have a law of attraction lens on this and whatnot.
Yeah.
So cool. I would like to now just take a moment to talk about my next coming webinars I have coming up here. So I'm going to just do that just to show. So let me just get my PowerPoint up, and then we're going to come back to some questions. So okay, now I'm going to share, and let me get the chat out of the way. What do you see? So these are my upcoming webinars for the next 30 days or so. I have on Mondays something that's called the Here to There Show, and Gabriella was my guest speaker on this last Monday. And it's really, the Here to There Show is somewhat the opposite of Widen Your Gaze. If Widen Your Gaze is the bigger picture, Here to There is really more of a deep dive, looking at stuff as to how we move people from point A to point B. And it's an interview, and it's an opportunity for the guests, or for the audience, to ask the guest speaker or who I'm interviewing any questions that they have. And it's a teaser for the Friday coming up. So that's going to be happening on Monday, and I'll show you who the guest speaker is coming up. On Tuesdays, I have part 1 of how to develop a compelling elevator pitch, the value proposition. And this is the first part of obviously a 2-part webinar. And the idea is that if you don't know your value proposition, it's really going to be hard to give a compelling elevator pitch, because so much of your elevator pitch is really based on what you bring to the table as to why people should actually buy from you. So that's happening on next Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, there's a brand new thing coming out, and it is the Connect, Learn, and Pitch Network. And It's starting on Wednesday, the 13th. We're going to run it for 3 consecutive Wednesdays and reassess. In December, we ran something very similar to this, but it was called the Connect and Learn networking events. And we ran 3 of those. Was really pleased with what we saw. Great with the attendance and people coming back week after week and encouraging each other. So in the pitch network, really what it is that you get to connect with other people, and also you get to learn how to pitch virtually. That's our focus. How do you pitch when you are in your house or in your bedroom or wherever and you're not seeing people? So we're going to be, like I said, we're going to be doing this for 3 weeks, and we're going to see how it's going to go, and there might be another iteration. I'm not sure where that noise is coming from. I'm just going to mute people. Okay, so that's happening next Wednesday. Next Thursday, we have part 2 of developing your elevator pitch, creating meaningful connections. And this is what we take what we learned in part 1, and then we apply it to part 2. And I offer a simple yet, I believe, elegant method, a model on how to engage with people and what good engagement looks like. So if you are having to give elevator pitches and you're looking at a different way of how to look at them and some learning, please come check this out. Oh, I forgot to add my Friday webinar next week, and it's who I have next week is Karen, and she's going to be talking. She publishes books, so the topic is how to publish a book if you want to be an author, a published author. Then of course on Mondays I have Here to There show. And then on Tuesday, January 19th, I have Ageism, Navigating the Potential Minefield. And the main takeaway from this webinar is you have to give them a reason to see past your age. If all they can see is your age, then you haven't really demonstrated what skills you bring to the table. So I offer, 10, 12 different strategies on how to look at this and how to not necessarily find yourself in an ageism situation. And then on Wednesday, of course, we have the Connect, Learn, and Pitch network. And then on Thursday, we have Becoming a Subject Matter Expert, how to position yourself as an expert and industry leader to potential employers. And so that's going to be happening on the 21st. And in this webinar, I offer 20 plus strategies and ways of looking at how to position yourself as an expert. And so it really is a different focus. It's really looking at how do you demonstrate your character when you are actually out there positioning yourself as an expert. And so if you're looking at how to position yourself as an expert, because that's what I do with my clients, is I position them as experts, come and learn some of these techniques. And come on, you can work. And we have, wow, sorry, it was just frozen there for a second. Right, okay. There we go. Tuesday, January 26th, we have video interviews, Getting Out of Your Own Way. This is not what to say in an interview. This is how not to shoot yourself getting in the interview, what you need to do, what you need to consider so that when you show up for that interview, you are good to go. So we're talking hardware considerations such as microphone, webcams, software considerations such as basically if you're going to be using a virtual background, what you need to consider with that. We're going to be talking about some of the mental considerations that come in and what gets in people's way of actually speaking on camera. That's everything I'm going to be covering on that. So if you're going through video interviews, there might be some good information for you to have on this. And on the last webinar of web event of the month, I believe is going to be Communication Fundamentals. This is one of my favorite webinars because it's where my passion lives, and my passion is all about understanding feelings and helping people show up more authentically and more really. So I talk about what good communication isn't, and then I go on to what good communication is. And then I offer a feedback formula and another model on how to look at why communication goes off the rails and how to deal with it. And then on the February 2nd, so we're now into next month, I have Dealing with Difficult Interview Questions. And this is everything from tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Have you ever had a conflict with a boss? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your salary expectations? I cover all these and so much more. So if you have some interview questions that you don't know what they're looking for, it's likely I can help you with that. You might be able to stump me, but that hasn't happened. I will probably be able to say why they're asking that question, or I might have an understanding of what they might be looking for. But I have hired more people. I've interviewed and hired more people than I can remember in my career. And so you're going to get a interviewer, the person across the table who is either solely giving you an interview or is running a panel interview. I've done lots of those where I'm the lead on a panel interview, and I'm setting the tone for everyone. So if you want to come and see what that's like to be, what's the inside of an interviewer, then come check this out. That is my webinars that are coming up, and we have a few more minutes to take questions. And I noticed that it looks like Will's hand is up. So Will, do you want to, let me just stop sharing here once I find my screen. No, I don't want to show that. Too many screens. Okay, we're going to do this. There we are. Stop sharing. Will, did you have a question, or are you just waving?
Yes, and now that you've stopped sharing, I've gotten so huge on the screen. Frightening. I better cover up here.
You're too close. That's right, Will. Well, you look good. You look good.
Yeah.
Thanks for.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, trying to get ready for those, if they ever come, those interviews.
They'll come
on camera. So, but back to this here, when you start to take action, my question for Gabriella: when you start to take action, what signs do you look for, or what do you do to prevent yourself from getting just overwhelmed with activity and overwhelmed with, I've got to do this and this, and this person says I should do this. And that
a human doer. You're just doing, you're doing,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. How do you stick to a plan and, just don't be unrealistic and expecting what you should be doing?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, because I'm definitely a doer, so I kind of suffer from that. I think one of the things that I keep in check with myself and my clients is, again, pairing that doing with the thoughts. Or when I was talking about me being an ontological coach, that doing with the being, right? So I can do and I can do and I can do, but who am I being? How am I showing up? What are my values? What's my energy? What's the overall kind of person that I want to embody? What are the fears that are showing up? What are what do I need to do to start shifting some of my beliefs? So really making sure that, yes, action is so important, because, action begets action. Nothing gets you started more than getting started. But remembering that that's not the only ingredient to the pie. And it's all the other stuff too that we need mixed in together. I think one tool could be an accountability structure. So, if you have a friend or a coach or a therapist or even a journal that you can share and say, here's what I've done this week, right? Because the thing is that we all have blind spots, okay? And if we know that our automatic is to be in just the doing, then we need someone else to reflect to us, hey, it's awesome that you're in action. Have you also thought about the being? Have you also thought about the thoughts? Have you also thought about making sure that you have the other ingredients to the pie? So really setting yourself up for success is looking for support structures, looking for people to reflect back to you. So because, you're human and you're going to be in your automatic way. So what do you need to set up to break your own cycle?
Yeah. And the thing I also want to add to that, and we're going to be bringing it to an end after this, but it's also, I have to look at myself and really have an honest conversation is, what is my need to be in action? What is my need to be doing? What is my need to basically be running around and whatnot? And sometimes taking action feels like you're actually producing things, feels like you're actually going somewhere. but we tend to chase our tail because we haven't really thought it out, because it's like, and entrepreneurs are really, I think, guilty of this. And you mentioned Ooh Shiny, didn't you, before that, Gabriella, about Ooh Shiny, or maybe somebody, no, maybe that was somebody else. Anyway, it's just this, but it's just the idea of like squirrel, like you're over here and then over here and you're over here and you don't get anything done. And there's actually an opposite side to that where you fixate too much. And it's interesting because I actually, it's not that I don't follow through. I think it could be argued I follow through too much and I don't let something go. I put an online program on once. I thought it was going to take me 2, maybe 3 months. 7.5 months it took me to put this online program together, and at the end it never went anywhere. And it was just because I was determined I was going to finish it, and I think there would have been something good about just letting it go, but you know, I didn't know that at the time. So yeah, so we just have to ask ourselves, what is our need to effort? And is that a false sense of control? Is that a false sense that we have empowerment when we do that? So on that note, we are past our 90 minutes. Gabriella, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great attendance today. We had like a lot of people show up, good engagement, good audience. And I want to thank, and would you come back and be another guest speaker in the future?
Oh my gosh, heck yeah. I love this. What a great community you've built.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to have everyone else sign off. I'm just going to do a quick debrief with Gabriella. And as I say, you don't have to leave your house, but you can't stay in this room or else I'll boot you out. So everyone take care, and hopefully we'll see you at another webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Luke.
You're welcome.
Have a good weekend, everyone.